Welcome to all my fellow metalheads, extreme music lovers, horror, art enthusiasts, and backyard belchers to the one and only Mendo Metal Podcast. We're a Mendocino County-based podcast focusing on the various metal genres and bands from our neck of the woods and beyond. We're back in your face for another episode. I'm Austin Spence from the band Embryonic Devourment, and with me is my co-host Brian Sticky Tips. Joining us tonight, we have the band Coffin Hunters with Sean and Brennan on drums. Sean does vocals and guitar. Coffin Hunters will be playing the upcoming Mendo Lake Metal Fest Saturday, June 17th. We're happy that Coffin Hunters agreed to come on the podcast and share some insight into their band and their take on the style we all love, heavy fucking metal. How you guys doing tonight?
Good. How you
Very
doing?
well.
Right on, man. So yeah, let's start with the early history of how you got into heavy music. Sean, you go first.
Yeah, totally. I'm and just I only do the vocals for Coffin Hunters. Our buddy Eric Sweden Harriman does guitar for us.
Gotcha.
But he does a phenomenal job. Yeah, as far as heavy music, I just got into just listening to it early on. And a lot of like the earlier kind of classic heavy metal, Dio, Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, even like some like Alice in Chains and stuff, and Soundgarden, more like a lot of that classic heavy metal, and bands like Death and Pantera and all that. But yeah, just growing up, you just eventually just become exposed to that kind of music. You can either gravitate towards it or you don't.
Shit, yeah. What about you, Brennan? How'd you get into heavy music?
Well, actually, it was one of those cases of sneaking into my older brother's room in, I don't know, fourth or fifth grade and, rifling through his things, which at the time was CDs, which were pretty fascinating. And seeing a CD of a suspended metal chair being zapped by lightning from all sides, which of course is Ride the Lightning. So I popped that thing in and was, lulled into, Fight Fire with Fire with the acoustic guitar. So I turned it up and then it blows me away, but not in a good way, in a scary way. At that age, I'd never heard music like that before. So, of course, I kind of was a recluse from it, but came back to it and started listening to it more and more and getting into that type of music at a really young age. I actually had a couple buddies that were listening to it in fourth and fifth grade. And I think at that time, Mandatory Metallica was on. So it was at that time where they were spinning like 598 EP and what did become Garage Inc., which were just cassette demos by Metallica. So
Wow,
that's what got me into it. It was really just rifling through my brother's stuff, and I was
that's awesome.
pretty early on.
It's the older brother or the friend's older brother is like the common thread. It's like literally like every story starts with my older brother or my friend's older brother turned me on to this, gave me that, and thank God for older brothers because I don't know how far metal would have got without older brothers.
Amen.
Most definitely. My best friend's older brother gave me my first box of heavy metal cassette tapes when I was between 8th and ninth grade. And so it's just great that everybody kind of started in that same way. Older brothers, you rock.
Cheers.
Hell yeah, Ride the Lightning seems to be a common thread too, man. That's like I've listened to some other podcasts and interviews, and there's a lot of bands that cite Ride the Lightning, man. That must be a hell of an album. I mean, I know it is for me, but to everybody, it just must be the thing, man.
Yeah, still to my day, it's my favorite album of theirs. So probably for that
it's a great
reason.
Metallica. I'd say that's my favorite Metallica album too. Ride the Lightning.
Nice. Oh, we lost Brandon. Well,
no, I'm here. I'm here still.
Oh,
I
okay,
just can't,
okay.
unfortunately, be on the video.
So Sean, you mentioned that some of your influences and some of the things that you were listening to were like Judas Priest and sort of that 80s was it new wave of British heavy metal and that's cool that you brought that up because when I listened to your song that's on the Mendo Lake Metal Fest compilation CD, you've got a song that you can put on there with us, Wake the Dead, and listening to that song you can hear the Judas Priest influences. You can hear the kind of mix with a little bit of classic rock and kind of the almost intentionally underproduced kind of sound, and like I love it. Like you guys have like that really cool. To me, I was like listening to it, and I heard like Judas Priest mixed with like Thin Lizzy. Like if they got together in a motel room and had like a child, like it would be Coffin Hunters, in my opinion. Like I really dig you guys' sound. It stands out a lot from a lot of the metal that's going on right now. So awesome, awesome job on that song, by the way.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
In fact, this will probably be a good time for us to drop it in.
I think the way you describe it is pretty accurate. There's definitely like those like Judas Priest element, Thin Lizzy, that the '70s hard rock kind of vibe going into it. Mixed with the traditional heavy metal sort of sound, and definitely like in the vocals. Yeah, it's a big influence on, especially in that song, like Rob Halford and those highs and just the overall like vibe of it and everything. So I yeah, totally agree with that.
Very good, very good.
So how did Coffin Hunters come to be? Like how did you guys meet?
Well, actually, I knew Brian in Sweden, our bass player and guitar player, um, in another band, and they saw I play in another band called the Messengers, where I sing and play guitar, and they saw one of the incarnations of that band and heard me singing, and I guess they liked how my voice sounded. And then later when they were looking for a singer, they hit me up and they're like, "Hey, would you be interested in, just jamming, kind of seeing how we vibe and everything?" I mean, we vibe really well, and I think it was a great fit with my vocal style and their guitar and bass playing and stuff. And I think it worked out really nicely. So that's how we kind of got together initially.
And how did you guys, I mean, you guys came together and just started writing songs? Did you guys come together and there were already songs and you sort of jumped onto them, or how did that kind of come to be?
Yeah, so Sweden and Brian had their own riffs and stuff that they had made and everything. And then I kind of just came in and kind of wrote some vocal melodies over their riffs that they made. And then they would I would write lyrics to those song stuff. They would maybe give me like a theme or something, be like, "Hey, write something kind of like about this," and then I'll be like, "Okay, I'll run with that," and then I'll write some lyrics kind of related to that general idea, and that would kind of come together. Um, so that worked out pretty nicely. And then with the addition of Brennan on this latest album, it's given it a really really cool heavy sound that I really dig. Brennan uh, just really melds well with the overall sound.
Awesome. Awesome. How many albums do you guys have out?
We have one EP and then two LPs.
Okay. Okay.
Wow.
The LP, yeah, the Fire Night is our previous LP, and then this current one is Wake the Dead.
Awesome. Awesome.
Where can people buy your stuff at? Like, what's the best link to obtain your guys' music?
Yeah, definitely. You can find our music on Bandcamp. I believe the URL is for our band is Coffin Hunters One. And yeah, you can find it on Bandcamp, and also we're signed to No Dust Records, so you can buy our vinyl for Wake the Dead on No Dust Records, and I believe also through Animated Insanity. No Dust Records is based in the Netherlands. Animated Insanity based in New York, but you can get our vinyl on there as well as CDs.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, like I said, I mean, I've listened to some of your music and I really dig you guys' vibe and your sound. And like I said, you guys really stand out a lot amongst a lot of the metal that's going on right now. Like from your perspective, because you guys are a Sonoma County band, you guys are from Santa Rosa, right? And you obviously you play with a lot of the bands that are around Santa Rosa. Like, kind of, what's your sort of perspective on the music scene in your area right now? Like, what do you see as being um, prominent? Like, what direction would you like to see it go, and how do you think that your band like fits into all of that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different genres I feel of metal within the scene. You have death metal and thrash bands. And then you have certain like new on bands uh, sort of around Sonoma, but also like Bay Area sort of bands. And like even though like as a band, we might not be as heavy as other bands and stuff. I think we definitely still sort of capture into that vein of the early sort of metal that people that are into more heavy stuff can also enjoy. What we have to offer. I feel because we've been on bills with death metal and thrash bands and stuff, and I feel like it still always works well. And I mean, as far as like the music scene, it's really been great here in Sonoma County. Everyone's very inviting, very supportive of each other. We all go to each other's shows and show support that way, and buy people's albums and stuff. And it's just a very great community, and happy to be a part of it. We're just kind of want to continue just being a part of that, and just seeing how far it can all go. Um, uh, um, I know um, Brandon McCubbin, Bitter and Booking, has put on a lot of great metal shows
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
area and stuff, and he's been really helpful to kind of facilitate that sort of metal scene and help it really really grow. And yeah, and people like
Definitely, yeah. He's a great promoter. I've worked with Brandon a few times, and he just always solid shows. Great guy, and Yeah, he would definitely be a good person to have on here as well. To capture kind of what's going on down in the scene down there in Santa Rosa. He's a great barometer for that.
Well, the Santa Rosa scene is important, very much so, to like the Mendocino County scene and the Lake County
Definitely.
scene, for more reasons than one. I mean, we can pull a lot of bands from Santa Rosa to come up here and play, and it kind of keeps a fresh cycle of bands coming through. But to me, what Sonoma County does best for us up here in Mendocino County is they bring the Bay Area closer to our front doorstep, because Santa Rosa is kind of an extension of sort of an outskirts of the city, the Bay Area. And I think that without the scene going on in Santa Rosa, our scene would probably suffer here in Mendocino County, because
Oh yeah,
we're off the beaten path up here. So I'm definitely appreciative of the stuff that you guys are doing down in Sonoma County, and the bands that are down there keeping it alive, because it helps us. It brings the Bay Area closer to us. And
definitely. Yeah, that's the bridge in between the Bay Area and us. Is the Santa Rosa scene. So
exactly.
yeah, you guys are doing great things. Brennan. So I've always thought that half of, at least in the metal genre, half of the sound is drums. It's almost like a metal band is only as good as its drummer. Some people have said, and so that being said, how do you feel about musically? Is the music challenging for you to play, and also what kind of gear do you use? What kind of drums do you use?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So, the music is challenging to play. It's a different style of music than I've traditionally played in the past. I came from playing more, I don't know, like progressive metal, a little black metal stuff. So when I had the chance to see these guys play, I was, I saw them play before I had any intent or even a possibility of playing with them. And it was just music I really enjoyed, for, the soaring vocals, the guitar riffs, the galloping bass lines, and just something that's intricate and simple at the same time and catchy is always something that I want to play. And it just comes down to the challenge of, finding the right parts. But this, Wake the Dead was a great album to play. A lot of energy and a lot of fun backbeat stuff with fills. But
Uh-oh.
Killer.
Yeah.
Well, sounds like some awesome music to play, and a lot of that galloping, bass riff kind of stuff, guitar, gallops. That can be a challenge to match on the drums, especially with the kick drums. With the triplets and matching that kind of stuff and having the fills, be synchronous with that it's definitely a challenge for sure. I used to play drums a little bit myself, and I highly respect, what you guys are doing in that area.
Right on. So I had a question. You were talking earlier about how, when you come in and you put lyrics over sort of, of riffs and, and their music. What is your approach to writing lyrics? I mean, aside from just coming in and listening to the song or listening to the riff, I mean, where do you pull your inspiration from, when you're putting lyrics together?
Yeah, so a lot of times it'll kind of be like Brian or Sweden will be like, oh, this kind of song kind of reminds me of this, or something like that, and then they'll kind of give me sort of a theme or something like that. And sometimes I'll come up with the theme, but a lot of times they'll sort of prompt me with something, and then from that I'll kind of just sort of delve into the idea of that and just sort of write lyrics around that. Not necessarily all straightforward, just literally in exactly what they're saying, thematically, but I'll sort of dance around it and sort of breathe life into it that way. Just kind of write almost sort of just from, I don't know, more of kind of a poetic sort of outlook of it, kind of more vague, I guess, kind of way of
Yeah.
writing it, um yeah, usually it's just kind of like looking at just like the theme, the vibe of what the lyrical content's supposed to be, and just like, or just the theme of it, and just kind of expanding on that.
Do you think we know a lot of bands from a lot of areas, and like a lot of bands from Humboldt County, a lot of their music is very dark and sort of cold, and a lot of music from Mendocino County is, stony, for lack of a better word. You know, in Sonoma County, like what sort of outside influences affect your band's sound and the way that you guys come across, as far as, or what you put into your music? How do you feel like your surroundings influence you?
Um, yeah, just kind of like just sort of the scene that we play in. Um, I mean, I feel like sort of just growing up in Sonoma County, just like kind of hearing all the music, all the different like genres of music, even like non-metal influence. It's just kind of all the music around there definitely all has an influence. Because I mean, you can pull, ideas from a bunch of different melodic sources, and just like all the music that we sort of grew up listening to. It's sort of all just sort of comes together. Like for me, listen to a bunch of different types of metal, even like lighter stuff, like hair metal and stuff like that. So like you have sort of the different sort of like backgrounds of all of us kind of coming together. And then Brennan, has played death metal and black metal, so he kind of pulls that into the songs as well. Um, so I feel like what kind of gives us the sound, and then Brian definitely a lot of like 70s hard rock kind of influence, as well as like metal, um, and same with Sweden. Uh, so I feel like just like kind of us all coming together with our different sort of um, like from our different musical backgrounds makes the sound, just like the uniqueness of what the band is. And it wouldn't sound the same if you took away one of those elements. I feel we're very much a product of um, just like sort of a synergy of all of us coming together, I feel.
Nice. Do you feel
Nice.
like, or do you feel like that that sort of guides your music sort of organically, or do you guys sort of, how do you guys sort of determine which direction you're going with your music? Do you sit down and collectively, or you just sort of let it manifest?
I feel like it is very organic. It's definitely it definitely manifests. We get together and we just sort of play off of what, like someone might have a riff or something, and like Sweden or Brian will have a riff, and then we'll kind of like listen to it, and we'll play, what feels right, what we can each individually can hear in that riff, what we can add to it to kind of make it pop, and kind of uh, give to the song, like make sure there's enough room for everything, make sure there's enough room for, the guitar and solos and vocals and drums and bass. And but I think it's very organic. It isn't necessarily always intentional. There's always, of course, some sort of, sometimes where you have to kind of get down to brass tacks and be like, okay, what are we going to do for this part to kind of like, bridge these two riffs together or something like that.
Mhm.
But I feel like it definitely does unfold um, organically, just because of where all of our strengths lie. I feel like we each, as people working in the band, each leave room for our our strong points to sort of shine. Um, I think that's sort of like happens naturally, and I think that's one of the reasons why the band is such a fun one to be in and play with these guys.
Has
Awesome.
there ever been a like a difficult moment for the band, or a tough period of time that the band has had to go through?
There's been some challenges for sure. I mean, um, we're starting out. We have um, parted way with our first drummer, to and then now we're working with Brennan and stuff, and that was a more challenging sort of time period. But I feel that we all kind of came together and did what was best for the band. It's always been about what can be best for the band, but still like be able to make sure that we listen to everyone's needs and be able to make sure that everyone's happy with the decision that we make. But um, you know, just focused on what's best for the music, what's best for the band as a whole, to make sure that we keep we continue forward, and still like be able to respect each other and respect each other's viewpoints. But I think like every band has some sort of challenges that they go through, and I think it's about how you deal with those challenges that kind of can allow you to move forward. Um, and I think that we've done a pretty good job of managing those.
Nice, man. What kind of drums do you use, Brennan? What kind of gear you got going on?
Yeah, sorry about that. Of course, if it can, it will. My phone died as I was out and about. But so I'm partial to Tama. I play a Tama Star Classic. I love it. Interestingly enough, I had my eye on this beautiful, dark wood drum set from like the early 2000s, and I could never afford it. But if you stock reverb for long enough, and you keep getting older, and you have a little bit more money, eventually you can, maybe catch it at the right time. So I found a Star Classic in a dark wood finish, but that's what I play. I kind of rotate between 3-piece and 4-piece. On the last album I played, one tom on the rack, one on the floor, and I think on this next album I'll be switching to 2 on the rack, 1 on the floor, which is what I've gravitated towards most of my playing career.
Nice. And what kind of cymbals and kick pedals?
So I use chain-driven Demon Drive Pearl, and
Killer.
they do the trick. I mean, I wish I had the foot speed of some of the bands out there. Obviously, some of the guys you play with. But yeah, so I don't have direct drive. And cymbal-wise, I like HHX. I like Meinl for rides. So I have a blend of Zildjian, HHX, and Meinl cymbals.
Nice. Yeah, that's a good, well-rounded sound. And yeah, the Thomas sets, they've always been just super solid sounding drums, nice and deep and easy to tune, get a good sound out of. That's cool, man.
Totally. Yeah. They're the Babinga series. So it's like a mahogany, so the wood just resonates a lot deeper. And Tama, their attention to detail on the kits that they made in Japan, even the little like eyelets in the drums are like made of wood themselves instead of metal. So
Yeah.
they really knocked it out with the Star Classic.
I'm going to jump in real quick because we're at the 5-minute mark. We got about 5 minutes left. So kind of like at this point in the interview, we want to kind of figure out where you guys are going next. What do you guys got going on that's coming up? And we know you're doing the Mendo Lake Metal Fest June 17th in Lakeport.